everybody at Move Film Festival and welcome to our online Q&A session. My name is Atalia and I'm joined here today by Christopher Murray, the director of the surreal and intriguing film Brujería, or Sorcery, that you all have just a chance to see for yourself. Thank you so much, Christopher, for being here. You already have quite some experience in the film industry, both as a documentary filmmaker and a director of fiction feature films. Your work has also been recognized by critics and film festivals worldwide, receiving several nominations and some awards as well for your filmmaking. And your newest film, Sorcery, has also gotten quite some acclaim. That's world premiere at the Sundance Film Festival this year, where it was also nominated for the World Cinema Grand Jury Prize. And now your film is also one of the official competition films at the Move Film Festival. So congratulations. Are you excited about it?
Yeah, I'm very excited. I'm very happy about what's happening with the film that we just started to show from January at Sundance. So yeah, we're really excited about what is happening and happy to talk about it because that's why we make films.
To start with the Q&A, I would like to ask you a little bit about the background story behind Sorcery. Since the film, even though it has some surreal elements, it's still based on like real events during the 19th century on the island of Chiloé during the colonial times, and specifically, it was there was a trial that was involved with it. I wondered if you could tell us a little bit more about the trial the film is based on.
Yes, you said this film is based in this trial that happened at the 1880 in Chiloé. There are a lot of like court documents about what happened there, and basically it was about the state of Chile, like the modern state that prosecuted this organization of sorcery through a legal figure that is called like poisoning and illegal association, because of course for the state sorcery was not something that they could deal with, so they used this figure. But basically the deep meaning of this trial was a way, of course, to erase in a way the power of this organization that was so powerful that in a way was kind of a state inside an state. And this idea of the confrontation between a modern state and a magical state in a way was really interesting for me. And of course, in the core of this trial, there was a lot of what the colonialism in the south of Chile was about like confronting and of course like trying to take away some worldviews that were there before, you know, the Chileans arrived there and the settlers, of course.
Why do you think it's important to tell this story right now?
Yeah, basically because I think the colonial process is still going on, and of course there's a lot of other kind of violent of this violent process that still are happening in the south of Chile, and still we are dealing with how to put together different worldviews of different nations in the idea of like a modern country, or the idea of the countries that we have, or the states. So in a way, it's something that we haven't solved. I think there are a lot of countries where this kind of relation between different worldviews and nations inside a country are kind of part of the difficulties. And just now in Chile, we're having kind of a constitutional debate about how to deal with this cultural difference. And so I think even though this happened at the end of the 19th century, it still echo, and there's a huge kind of resemblance with what is happening right now in Chile, and not just in Chile. The film has been screened in Mexico, I don't know, in cinemas, and of course there's a story about it there, or even in Sundance, in Utah, the state where the film happened, where the festival happens. There's also a story about that in a way. So I think in a way, the whole way we have constructed like contemporary society has been deal with this kind of forces that are still like trying to find a way to to live together, to cohabit.
What is your view basically on like how cinema and political content in cinema? Do you think cinema should be always like political? Should there be more political type of cinema or talks about social justice? What do you feel about that?
Yeah, I don't know if it's kind of mandatory, like to see like cinema should do this or that, because of course it's a part of a free practice, and but at least for me it's really difficult to think about a film that it's not political, but political in a broad sense. I mean, what was for me really like amazing about this case and this story in particular is that the sorcery, that it's a kind of a abstract way or mysterious practice, or whatever. In a way, it's in this story has a really political and component in terms of sorcery as resistance, as confrontation, as defense, as a as a power of empowerment of oneself and also of the community there. So usually I'm interested in these kind of topics that are not like so kind of on your face politically. Like it's not about I don't know, to follow a really political case with the documents and all the concrete things, like more kind of journalist thing or whatever. But I think in this sense, the relation between entities, human, non-human, how we deal with that, how we will relate with these forces, natural forces. Of course, there's a lot of political elements there that are about how we build our societies and our understanding of them. So yeah, for me, it's really difficult to think about a film that is not political, but I think it's important to go beyond kind of the classical way of how we understand the political in terms of politicians and whatever, but go beyond that in a way.
I also wondered because I read somewhere that you kind of have some family ties to Chiloé because your
Yeah.
grandmother also comes from Chiloé.
Mhm.
Was this then in some ways also a personal story to you? Did your grandmother play a role in you wanting to tell this story specifically?
Yeah, my grandmother was from Chiloé. She was not indigenous. She was more kind of from a Spanish root,
Mhm.
even though there's a lot of cultural crossings there. But even though here I'm from the capital in a way, and I live with her in a moment of my life, the island was kind of this mythical place where she was born and raised through her like first years till she was 20, and then come to study to the city, like to the capital. And so in a way, the island was a place there, not so concrete, but kind of this magical, mysterious island that was not only for her, but also for the country. It's kind of a mysterious, kind of really particular island because of the identity and idiosyncrasy of this place. And yeah, I think in a really kind of I don't know, like domestic way, I felt the necessity to go there to see what was happening there, and that's how I came across this case and also get involved in this thing, and has been really interesting because after I didn't have like a really close relationship with her,
Mm.
uh, and was interesting because when I was making the film and relating with people in a way and dealing with these sorcery things, there are a lot of her attitudes and way of seeing life that now I understand it better. Now, even though that she's not right now like alive, but there's something about the reconnecting with some of her personality that in a way maybe she was a little bit also into sorcery in a way.
I've also read that you, in preparation of like writing and film and sorcery, you spend a lot of time visiting Chiloé and living among the indigenous communities there to understand people living there and the culture. How was that process for you?
Yeah, I would say that that will for me was maybe one of the most important part of the process, you know, and the one that I enjoy a lot. That it's part of like trying really to grasp what it's about. And I was there not only like in connected with indigenous communities, but also like with well, all kind of communities there. Like Chiloé is really kind of mix everything, and so it's really interesting in a way, like to have the different versions about this case and perspectives. And yes, I was like 3 years going there, going like back, and then staying there and going back and filming also, like for research. And also this was part in a way of a thesis that I was writing for a postgraduate that I was studying in Manchester of anthropology. So in a way, I was really trying like to grasp in a more kind of ethnographical way what was happening there. And when I understood that surgery in this case, more than just something mysterious, was more related with this kind of political issue, and the idea of surgery as territorial resistance, then I realized that there was something really interesting for me, more than just kind of the atmosphere, but more about the content.
Mhm.
And then after like living a lot of interesting experience there, going really deep inside different groups in the island, I had kind of the, I don't know, the confidence to finally write the script.
Were the locals, were they open to talking you during the filming process about like the history and the witchcraft aspects, or was it difficult for them to open up about it?
Well, I was at in Chiloé, as they are an island, of course. Usually, people from islands that are really kind of close in a first moment. You know, in a first moment, of course, there's suspicious, or they are kind of preconceived idea what this foreigner is bringing here or trying to take from here. But I think when you stay there and you start to build the kind of relations, and I think it's more kind of I don't know, more, you start to build trust and confidence. And um and in that way, I think it was not so hard. And at the beginning, of course, there's some, because all these stories in a way also had this kind of folkloric approach
Mhm.
sometimes, you know.
Yeah.
You hear about the stories in school or whatever, and in a touristic journey. And so in a way, there's all these kind of folkloric approaches to this.
Mhm.
But when you stay there and you go deeply, I think people appreciate that, because you're trying in a way to touch like the deep sense of it. And in that moment, I think everything started to be more collaborative, more kind of simple, and people started to interact and to bring stories and experiences from their own families. And that, I think, was the moment, of course, also when I feel the kind of, I don't know, the energy of that I have the authority like to do this. Because of
Yeah.
course, when you're talking about others, of course there's a problem about the authority, and the only way to feel comfortable with that is like to be authentic, and to be open and perceptive, and to be serious, of course, in having the time to deal with the topics that you're dealing with.
The film was also filmed on the actual island of Chiloé, right? What was
Mhm.
it to film in such like a remote like environment? How did the location kind of shape the film as well, next to it
Mhm.
being based on a story there, of course?
Yeah, for sure. It was really important to film the film there. We some moments, I think, in all the process of making a film, there are some idea of recreating things in another place. That's kind of part of the classical process of more production thinking. And but I knew there was something about the making the film, of course, in the real places,
Mhm.
you know, in the real cave when things like this happen, or in the real waterfall where this happens, like in places that were connected to the story really, that I think in a way you can feel that. I don't know why, it's kind of I don't know how to put it in words, but you can feel that when you see a film, and you kind of feel the energy of the place, and how that's so magnetic, and you can recreate that.
And I also seem to think that the sea also plays a very important role in the film, like signifying a lot of parts of like Rosa's journey, reconnecting with like her spirituality, with her roots. A lot of like important moments taking place next to the sea, into the sea. You also see one of the characters talking about like how the community of the island is like are related as like sea creatures, I think,
Mhm.
or something like that. Could you tell us a little bit more about that aspect of the film, the connection to the sea?
Yeah, I think of this. of course, something about living in an island that makes the sea and a character and an entity and a place that has a lot of significance for the people there, and that's why, of course, for the story also. And as you said, it plays an important role in really important scenes where the story is developed, and that's why also we filmed in the sea, in the scenes where, I don't know, when Rosa gets inside it and Mateo kind of rescue her, and everything of that was filmed also in the sea, in the open sea. And yeah, and I think that's about the sea and also about the water. I think that the whole film had a humidity, and that's something so important for this island, not only in terms of the weather, of course, of the atmosphere, but in terms of the entities that live in the sea and the spirits that live in the sea and that they communicate with them. So I think it was really important to make them a character, and that they had a presence in the
Mhm.
film.
I was also wondering, like, next to like colonization, grief, and injustice, sorcery also deals a lot about themes of like religion, Christianity, and like the clash between like, organized belief and faith. On the other hand,
Mm.
you seem to be no stranger to this theme. You've also explored this in other feature films, such as The Blind Christ and your documentary Dios about the Pope coming to Chile. Where does this fascination with this theme come from?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. Sometimes I say that I need to answer it in therapy with psychoanalysis. I like, but yeah, there's something about the mysterious aspects of this that I have a kind of a fascination, of course, of getting with film inside these areas that are not kind of the connected to reality you see when you open the door of your house and you go out, you know. For example, I feel that there are filmmakers that are really connected to representing what is happening, right?
Mhm.
Like in their own lives or in their own town, and to be really kind of like loyal to the aspect of realism, and I love that, of course, also. But when I work creatively, I don't know why immediately my head goes to this kind of dimensions that are not so tangible or concrete. And maybe because even though they're not concrete or tangible, they're so there in a way, and they affect so much about the daily politics of a country. And also there had a kind of an expressive energy that to capture that with the camera, or to recreate that with the camera, and trying to grasp that is intangible. I don't know, there's something that in a way it's fascinating for me, and also because I think there's a mystery. I'm not kind of a believer or someone that is part of a organization or at all. But yeah, it's interesting how modernity in a way has established certain kind of uh, ways of more rational understandings of things. But even though these things develops, it's impossible not to deal with this other aspect that nobody understands, but they're kind of getting inside. Could be faith, could be sorcery, could be, I don't know what it is, but there's kind of I don't know how you say that in like grieta. It's like when you have this kind of I don't know how you say that, but it's I don't know, like places where this thing came inside this rational box,
Yeah.
and uh, uh, and it's interesting. I mean, like as a cinematic experience to go inside these levels, of course.
Your film is quite like atmospheric, it's captivating. It is placed with these expectations of like first it seems like a very straightforward revenge film, like you're straight into the action. And then you have
Mm.
these elements of witchcraft. You think it's going to be like more of a horror movie or something. But then it becomes like this completely other thing, becoming out a journey about
Mm.
spirituality, connecting with your roots, while also giving insight in the history of Chile as well. So there's a lot of stuff going on in your film, but you balance it really well. And I just wonder what do you hope people and the audience will take away most from your film? What's the reactions you hope for?
Yeah, it's a really interesting question because yeah, a lot when you're making a film and you are trying to get the funds for making a film, there's a lot about what's the core of the film. This is a revenge film. This is a horror film. This is an adventure film. This is I don't know, a drama, a historical drama. Like to put it like in what it is. And I was kind of for me, it's difficult to think about these categories in a so kind of precise way and. But I knew that it was interesting for me, like the that a dramatic event at the beginning of the film as a murder in a way was the starting point of something much bigger in terms of this initiatic journey and that also is really classical. I love that. I love like kind of classical structures of the journey. I don't feel uncomfortable with that. There's something about I don't know the way that I have heard the stories when I was a kid, and I love that. But of course, the quality of this journey and the levels and the layers of the journey, I think, make the difference. And yeah, they're kind of how do you say that? They're like when
Like connected, like
yeah.
intertwined.
No, I was thinking like when a grandmother is doing like this
Knitting,
with
like
yeah,
interweaving. Yeah.
interweaving, that's a word. Like interweaving these different
Yeah.
aspects, like the historical political thing with the spiritual more thing and the sorcery elements and the rituals and the animals. And yeah, there are a lot of elements. Some people say too much, but but for me it was part of course of the melange that's inside Chiloé and how to interweave these elements in a really structure that basically was the story of a girl um, looking for justice for his father, but also finally making justice with herself, and that was like the core of the film, and the other elements were kind of surrounding and
Mhm.
um, in Chiloé they say like the sorcerer has this capacity, of course, of going inside the I don't know the vegetables and the animals,
Yeah.
and the bodies and the I don't know the places. So
Mhm.
I love that the idea of the film when you're making it and with the camera and the editing, also like to create in a journey like this, that you were kind of
Mhm.
traveling different dimension.
Yeah, yeah, I can definitely feel that. I also think like the parts with like the mystical parts of like, they really felt like all the going into like the dogs and stuff, and then
Mhm.
the witch parts. I
Mm.
think the sorcery parts were really strong for that. That was a great answer. I think it really came across for me that how you intertwined the layers and how the intertwinement of the spirituality also was part of the story. I would like to thank you very much for this interview. It was a pleasure talking with you. Thank you so much for giving us some insights into
No.
sorcery.
Thank you a lot for this moment, for this instance. I'm sad not to be there, but I'm also happy of having at least this moment of talking and reflecting about the film. But that's why
Mhm.
the films are made
Yes.
for. So
Yeah.
thank you very much.